Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 153 of a year of change. Sort of going back to the old intro, I suppose. Today we are doing another documentary, again, which this one was actually recommended to me. It's not one that I had to go searching for. Last week, it was actually recommended to me by Jared, JRod311. He's in the My Fellow YouTubers playlist if you want to go take a look at him. I was watching his stream and he had brought this documentary up, so I thought I would go take a look. And before we get into that, I did make a note on his intro video as well in the description, but he's moved from Twitch to Hitbox, so go take a look. Anyway, he had brought this up that it was a documentary called Fed Up. And he said it was really good and I should go take a look at it. So, I'm one of those people that I'll take everything in first and then figure out, okay, is this something that's objective? Is this leaning more one way or the other? For the first 10 or 15 minutes, I wasn't going to continue on because it was one of those things that, we sort of accepted when we started this that our issues are our own fault. We're the reason why we are the way we are. It's our eating habits. We don't do enough. We don't eat properly. We eat a lot of junk food and stuff like that. So, and it's sort of been leaning more towards processed food as well. It's just, I don't want to get into hippie territory or anything, but it does contribute to it. So a lot of this at the very beginning was just sort of, oh, this isn't your fault. This isn't your fault. This isn't your fault, which I really don't agree with because if it wasn't our fault, then absolutely everyone would be fat. The vast majority of us are fat anyway, but they sort of clarified as things progressed because you can't very well just sort of watch 10 minutes of something, shut it off and go, oh, it's wrong, I don't agree with it. You need to take the whole thing in first, get all the different points of view, all the different opinions, and then make up your own mind that way. So I continued on watching, just sort of seeing where's this going to go. And they did sort of clarify a little bit. And what it just basically talks about is, yes, in the end, it's our choices that we make. It's the lack of activity that we do. We've said before it's about 80% diet, 20% exercise that really sort of determines whether or not you're obese. And they sort of expand on that a little bit and say that they go into what we talked about this before as well, Michelle Obama's Let's Move program, and why it isn't helping as much as people think it should. It's mainly because it doesn't sort of attack the heart of the matter, which is the food. And a lot of it is sort of aimed at the fast food industry. Not just that, but just bad food in general. And it sort of shows how the different lobbyists have contributed to our overall poor diet, what you can do to stave that off, and just a whole bunch of different stuff. And it is interesting. Not that it's saying, well, it's not your fault that you're fat, it's because of all the food around you. It simply does state, though, that because of the culture that we live in, other countries are starting to get the same way because the culture is sort of bleeding into them. But in general, it's because just everything is aimed at fast food and junk food and processed food where it's quick, it's easy, and there's lots of fat, there's lots of sugar, and we're just surrounded by it all the time. So it's just the majority of what we eat. So it's a little difficult to sort of look at it and say, well, yeah, they're agreeing that, we can change and we can do this without also thinking, well, they're also saying it's not my fault. It's an odd balance. It is a little difficult sometimes to keep two opposing ideas in your head at the same time. But when you're looking at it, there are things that are contributing to it that, you're inundated by it. They do sort of go through how almost in every single store, like the ones that don't even sell food normally, they all have a candy aisle. That came out weird. They all have a candy aisle somewhere. And rated eye level for kids, and which we've all been aware of for a very long time. But when you really stop to think about it, when you go somewhere to any store and they've got, a massive aisle just filled with candy, and obviously we're going to be buying it. And the just nonstop fast food restaurants. Long time ago when I first started doing the Hill, I think, and I mentioned how many fast food restaurants are on the just that little strip of road that my work is on, and if I was to count, there's I can think of at least 4 or 5 before I get to work. So again, I'm not one of those people that I'm going to say, well, it's not my fault that I'm fat because there's so many restaurants around and so much junk food and fast food and everything else and the processed food. It's their fault because they keep putting bad stuff in there. I'm still making the same choices. I'm still deciding, okay, well, I'm going to go to Burger King instead of going to get a salad somewhere, and not just to sort of restrict everything that way, but say, well, I'm going to go get, a double burger and a large fry. Fries, plural, whatever, and a milkshake instead of just having a regular meal. So I do think that the choices that we make are very, very important with this as well. I think it does contribute a lot to it, and we've proven that it obviously does. We're slowly dropping the weight, but we are dropping the weight. But when you're surrounded by it all the time, it does sort of lend you that idea that, yeah, no wonder we're fat. It's just that's what we're just surrounded by 24 hours a day. And it also sort of goes into a little bit how the food itself, because there's very little nutrition in it, there's just a lot of fat, there's a lot of sugar. So when you're eating it, you're not getting a whole lot out of it. So you're hungry again, but your body just needs to store it somewhere. So that's why it's constantly pumping out fat. Anyway, the whole slew of things that it goes into. And it's still one of those that even now, a few days later, I'm thinking, I don't know if I agree with it 100%. It's just that there's a lot of information in there that you can sort of, take into consideration and take a look at. Very appreciative of having this pointed out to me, though, because it was one that I had never even heard of. It's a little difficult to find, actually, on YouTube. There were only 2 people that had it, and 1 person is selling it. So 1 person in total. But I'll put it up into the playlist for the recommended viewing, and urge you to go up and take a look. It's really interesting. It doesn't really lean too far one way or the other. There is still that underlying, no, you can fix it by making proper food choices and exercising more, and making sure that you're not just sort of, constantly going after junk food, and pay attention to the labels and pay attention to your nutrition and all that stuff. But there is sort of that opposing. I keep saying opposite. The opposing side as well, that's saying, but you need to be careful because you're competing with this. That's probably the best way to look at it. If you're saying, well, yes, it's difficult, and we know how difficult it is, obviously, but it's difficult to stay on track and eat the proper foods and, make those decisions that you need to make and go out and buy, as we were trying to describe, whole foods, I guess, real food, fruits and vegetables and, raw meat so that you can prepare it yourself. When you're completely surrounded and you're competing against all the other foods that are out there. And again, I don't want to vilify processed foods and say, oh, it's an evil corporation is doing this. It's not. It's just that when you're surrounded by that at all times, of course, it's going to be difficult to make those decisions. My hope is, though, that we've been making them for so long now that it's much, much easier than it would have been 5 months ago. If you were to start off 5 months ago and just say, okay, well, you need to do this, 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 and this. There's no way. But we've slowly become a little more aware of what we're doing. I think it's hopefully, anyway, a little bit easier for everybody. So, anyway. I don't know if I've really clarified, although, well, there are, those 2 opposing ideas saying it's not your fault, it's the food, and it is our fault because we're eating the food. And it does sort of visit both of those and tries to find not necessarily a balance. It just presents information and says, there, do with it what you will. One of the things that really surprised me, which I shouldn't be at this point, I've been doing a little bit of prep work trying to get ready for us to cut out fat and cut out sugar. So we're going to do fat first. And then we're going to do sugar because the sugar thing is going to last longer than 4 weeks. There's one thing that really stands out, and that is on nutrition labels. And I've never really noticed this before because you don't really think of it. But apparently there was quite the battle to Like everything else says a recommended, daily allowance of sodium, how much of sodium is in each thing, and fiber and fats and everything else. Sugar doesn't have that on nutritional labels. It tells you the amount, like 9 grams or 12 grams or whatever, but it doesn't tell you a percentage. So we're going to visit that as well and find out exactly what our daily intake is supposed to be, because I guess with the sugar, they sort of fought to not have it put on there. And that's the one thing that sticks out in my head throughout the entire thing, which is sad because it's an hour long. That really just sort of jumps out, and especially given what I've been sort of getting ready for it and trying to find all this stuff. Trying to find all this stuff in preparation for it. I can't talk at all. That just sort of stands out in my head as though if you take one thing away from this video. But that's the one thing that I sort of took away from it, and it's been one of those just weird things that sticks in the back of your head. Anyway, go up, take a look at it. It's called Fed Up. And at the very least, it's interesting information, whether or not you agree with it or whether you lean one way or the other. It's just interesting to take a look at, and it is valuable information. A lot of it, though, there are some opinions that are in there that are kind of common sense, things that we've sort of also grown to recognize in ourselves and looking at it going, yeah, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I should be doing that. So some of the stuff is common sense. Some of the stuff is that, it makes sense to us now because of what we've been doing. But overall, it's a very good documentary. So thank you to Jared for recommending that. And go up and take a look at him and thank him as well if you enjoy it. And if you want, I don't know. Now I wouldn't say go up and talk about it because he's busy doing his stuff. Leave him alone. Anyway, go up and take a look. But yeah, don't bring it up. Anyway, that is it. I'm going to try to keep this one very short because we've been going around the 20-minute mark. So we are, look at that. We're below 15 minutes. Not too bad for a Friday. Plus you have an extra hour of TV to watch now. But it's very interesting, very entertaining, very informative. So I think you'll enjoy it. So that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.